There is no BVS, Buck.
Are you sure?
There's no BVS right now. Tell me what reason there would be.
Not an ounce?
No, not an ounce. I mean, seriously, tell me what reason there would be from the sample size of the first 2 games to have BVS. Tennessee put in a C+, B- performance on offense. I mean, if I told you before the game, Nico Iamaleava's stat line, what would you have said? A touchdown win, maybe? They put in that performance on offense and won by 41 points against a team that was supposed to push for something in the ACC this year. So no, at the moment, the BVS is non-existent.
Well, let's ask Mike Felder, who joins us now, which means it's college football season. I see Mike in my Zoom. It makes me so happy. Welcome back, buddy. It's good to have you. Have you ever heard of battered Vols syndrome, and have you dealt with a fan base that deals with it as much as the Tennessee fans do?
Yeah. Obviously, Clemsoning. We come from that. And then you throw NC State, the S word for poo. And that's another one. And so, yes, I am very aware of the battered Vols syndrome. I get it. And guess what? When it's whatever the opposite is of between being a rock and a hard between a rock and a hard place. This is what happened. And guess what? Tennessee was the hard place, and it wasn't going nowhere. They absolutely went out there and smoked them.
Was it at all surprising? Because obviously you're familiar with the NC State program. You saw the way that they struggled and labored a bit in week 1, but there was not a huge separation, at least as far as Vegas saw this game, Mike. Not a huge separation between these two teams going in. And like Lucas said, it's not like Nico lit it up. This was a well-rounded team performance that just went out there and smacked the Wolfpack in the mouth.
Yeah, I just think NC State has a lot of problems. And so this isn't putting Tennessee down at all. I think Tennessee played a really clean football game, which I do think we have to point out, that they did play a pretty clean football game. The reality for me is that NC State cannot run the football. Their defense, obviously, when you lose a guy like Peyton Wilson, your defense is going to take a step back. They have no answers on defense. And watching the way that these guys are just running around in my town, in the crowd town, baby, and watching the way that Tennessee's wide receivers are running around, and obviously Squirrel, and you look at the rest of the guys, like, it wasn't like they were like boom, boom, boom. It was like, this play, one time, let's go. And that was the part that was interesting to me when you talk about Nico, when you talk about that wide receiving group. I thought the more impressive part was watching Sampson on the ground, because they were able to do that. That was a lot more consistent than the passing game, if you ask me. And then NC State, I mean, I'll put it this way. I don't know if I'm from North Carolina. My uncle went to Western Carolina. They have never once ever in my entire life been good at football. Not one time ever. Ever. Never, ever. And to see NC State struggle against them, I was like, this is going to be a long year.
At In the Bleachers is where you can follow him, his Substack, itsfelder.substack.com. He's one of the best minds in college football, and he's kind enough to grace us with his presence.
So with that said, Mike, did Saturday's game in Charlotte say more about NC State, or did it say more about Tennessee? And was it enough for you to look at Tennessee and consider them any sort of championship contender in 2024, whether that be just the SEC or beyond?
Here's the thing. If I'm Tennessee, I don't want to be an SEC championship contender. You know what I want to be? In the top 12. I want to be in the top 12. And I've been thinking about this. I'm actually getting ready to sit down and write this thing. Instead of doing the timing thing that I was doing on Tuesdays last year, Buck, now I'm doing it. I'm working on Tuesdays. I'm going to do something called the format. Because guess what? The thing I've realized about the format, the new 12-team playoff, they don't want Notre Dame to get in at all.
Thank God.
Notre Dame could be number 1 in the country, undefeated, 12-0. They still have to go to 5. And so to flip this back to the Tennessee perspective, if I'm Tennessee, sure, maybe I lose to Georgia, or I lose a game, right? I drop a game. It doesn't matter. But I just hang around, which puts me into the playoff. And now I'm in the playoff, and let's go crazy. let's go nuts. And I think that's the part that's been interesting to me. And just realizing like how teams are going to try to scheme game for the play, because the reality is Texas looked amazing this weekend. I don't think they're better than Georgia, but they looked amazing. So if Texas loses to Georgia in Atlanta at the Benz, what are we doing? Texas has to be 5, and Tennessee's just, if I'm Tennessee, I'm like, hey man, I'll be 8, I'll be 9. I don't look, we're good. Let's do it. We lost 1 game this year. Like, it's fine. I'm good with this. So it's going to be really interesting, because on the flip side, you look at across the country, you look at Oregon. Oregon didn't look very good at all, but Boise State did look good. And if Boise State can hang around and be in that, like, they could be a top 10 team. Now they're in. And the same thing with Clemson. Clemson didn't look good in week 1. So if I'm Tennessee, I'm like, I don't have to win the SEC to have a chance to play for a national championship. And it's probably easier for me to hang around than it is to, pedal to the metal to try to win this SEC title.
I'm sure plenty of SEC fans, just speaking specifically for this part of the country, I'm sure plenty of SEC fans, Tennessee specifically, are starting to wrap their minds around that very concept, Mike, because as we play this thing out, you're getting more of a representative sample size of just how it is the best way to go about this thing if you do think that your program is one of the best 12 in the country. Who is the best college football team through the first 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how you count week 0?
So I got to do a show, and so just so you know, like, this is how I'm doing it, right? So I got to do a show. I know you can't read all my handwriting; it's terrible.
Well, you can't give away all your trade secrets to our YouTube chat, Mike. Don't do it.
But here's the thing: like, I think there's going to be 3 teams from the Big Ten. Right now, I have 5 from the SEC. That's scary, because Mizzou, who no one is talking about, is a very good football team. But if we have Georgia, we have Texas, Mizzou, Ole Miss, and Tennessee all in there, that's a problem. You throw in Boise State, I think Penn State, I still feel shaky about them because the way that they struggle with Bowling Green. I think Georgia's the best team in the country, and not because they are as dynamic as Tennessee. I think Tennessee, USC, probably arguably the most explosive teams in the country. But Georgia, I mean, and I've heard this a million times, and it's one of those things, like, I don't know if anyone's ever wrestled or anyone's ever done anything like that, but it's like, if you cut off a man's air supply, he doesn't want to fight anymore. And Georgia has the ability to do that. And I don't know.
I feel like you don't have to be a wrestler to grasp that part of it, Felder.
Point taken.
But, like, that's what they do. Like, Clemson was near perfect for 40 minutes on the defensive side of the ball. And then all of a sudden, it was just like, I can't fight. I'm done. What was it? Is it Green Mile? And when the guy goes, I'm tired, boss. Yeah, like it was just like, no, we tried our best, but like we got 40 minutes into this. There's 20 to go, and I can't take it the rest of the other 20. So yeah, I mean, like Georgia will put you in a cool hand loop going into the box situation in an instant. So this is going to be one of those things that's going to be interesting. I do think that, Texas, amazing. Tennessee, they really should. And again, they could play a better football game than this. And I think that's worth noting. They could play a better football game. Nico could he doesn't have to have 2 interceptions, right? What if he does hit a couple of those deep balls? Like, what if he hits a couple of those that are down the field? What if, like, that's the thing. What if Samson breaks one of those runs where he gets tripped up? Like, what does this look like? And that's the part that's going to be interesting to me, especially as they get into that SEC schedule.
Shame on you for not respecting Vanderbilt enough to put Missouri on upset alert in 2 weeks. Shame on you, Felder, really.
Dude, listen, I'm already dealing with Virginia Tech fans that are irate, okay? They are irate. They got sold a bill of goods and went to They went to your town and got their behinds whooped. And they were supposed to be like a quote-unquote dark horse ACC title contender. And Kyron Jones, obviously I know there was some injury stuff, but man, they looked mid. As the kids say, they looked mid.
Tough couple weeks for the quote-unquote dark horse ACC contenders. By the way, speaking of those type of teams, Missouri's got to deal with Bill O'Brien's Boston College Eagles before they need to think about Vanderbilt. That's coming up on Saturday.
Who would have thought this would have been the toughest part of Missouri's schedule?
Yeah. But, Mike, you mentioned...
I'm hyped.
You mentioned Georgia and the way they do choke the life out of opponents. And we've talked a lot in the lead up to the season. We have Josh Pate on the show all the time, and he is of the mind that this could be a purely chaotic college football season, totally up for grabs. So is Georgia dominance in 2024 the one big thing that could maybe hold us back from that type of chaos?
That's a good way to put it. I do think that it's gonna be chaotic because I'm doing radio all over the country, and there are still people who don't listen. I'll be honest. When I did my first show for Bleacher Report this year for the football season, I still was trying to think of it as top 12. Top 12 doesn't matter. You got to throw your Power 4 teams into the top 4. They get a bye. So there's a ton of people that still don't understand the format. And so there's just the idea of understanding the format is a start. Then you get into, okay, so what does this look like? Like, we're looking at Tulane, or we're looking at not Troy, because Troy, I think, just took an L. We're looking at all, like, there's these moving pieces. We already mentioned Notre Dame. So, yeah, I don't think the chaos is because of the portal. I don't think the chaos, although that's a big part of it, I don't think the chaos is because of the portal. I don't think the chaos is because of the conference expansion. I think the chaos is because of the format. And then the other things are symptom of this kind of disease. And so what we're dealing with is a Tennessee team, again, we already mentioned this, they're better off going 11-1 or 10-2 and just hugging up to 12 and getting in instead of let's go pedal to the metal to try to make sure we win an SEC championship. But the same thing, like if you look at Oregon or you look at, like, realistically in the Big Ten, yes, we have undefeated Penn State, undefeated Ohio State, undefeated Oregon. And we're like, how do you reconcile all this? Iowa just took a loss to Iowa State, but Iowa's still in the running because that game doesn't count as a conference loss. So they can still, in theory, navigate this whole situation to be a player. And so that's the part to me where you find the chaos is all these like little things. Clemson got destroyed by Georgia. And guess what? Doesn't matter because they could still win the ACC over a Miami team that destroyed Florida. And all those things, especially now, because you guys are doing this in the SEC, ACC, there's no divisions. So the best two teams go. So we'll see what happens. And someone from the Big 12 has to go. Someone from the Big 12 has to go.
Somebody. Anybody.
Kicking and screaming.
Really
Is
quick.
that a 9-3 Oregon? Not Oregon, Utah. What if it's a 9-3 Utah that ends up going 10-3? They'll probably be ranked, 17, 18? Which means they're going to be 4. But that also means whoever's 11 or 12, goodbye.
I quickly need to find Mike Felder for the humble brag of I'm doing radio all over the country read, please, quickly. Thank you very much. We'll collect that from you.
You're part of the country.
No, that's okay. It's fine. It doesn't need to be said out loud, Mike. That's how this game works around here. I know that we've got to get you back into the swing of things, but I'll Venmo request you for your fine money later.
He's lashing out, Mike, because he likes to do this clout chasing thing where he references people he's bumped shoulders with that bring no extra context to what he's saying. So we find him for those moments on the show, and now he lashes out. And anytime anybody brings up something of the ilk that they're doing a radio show here or they are friends with this person there, he lashes out and he tries to take their money.
That's right, and I did it. There it is. Mike Felder.
No. Hey, wait, before we leave, I just want to say this.
No, you're not done yet. I'm not done with you yet.
No.
Let the man talk.
I love doing the show. You are one of my favorite guys to talk to. I love doing the show. The point I was trying to make is I'm hearing other stuff from other people that aren't just in the Southeast like we are, right? And so I'm trying to incorporate that into our conversation. Because I can tell you what, the people in Berkeley, not thrilled. The folks at UCLA, not thrilled at all. But You throw in Cal getting a win over Auburn. Hey, buddy, let's go.
He did it again. I think we're well within our rights to fine him 3 times based on how this segment is going with Mike Felder. Thank you very much, Reed. Not a ton of matchups between ranked opponents this coming weekend. In fact, Arizona and K-State, I think, is the only one between 2 ranked opponents so far this week.
Boston College and Missouri.
That's right. The Eagles
BC's ranked now.
Snuck in. That's right. Okay, so from a tactics standpoint, Mike, the most interesting game on the board, outside of ranked opponents or not, what are you honing in on this week?
Alabama, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you.
Yeah, I Wisconsin, obviously, they're low, they're slow, they go, and they're going to fight hard. And I'm really interested to see what this game looks like under Kalen DeBoer. We saw them, they struggled a little bit against South Florida. And then they opened it up, but I want to see what this game looks like. They're going to Madison. Madison is not an easy place to play. Like, just a fact. It's not an easy place to play. It's at noon. It's hard. Like, it's a hard place to play at. And they, I remember when I was at UNC, my freshman year, I didn't travel to the game, but my teammates came back and they were like, so what they do is they set up all these chain link fences down their main drag, and you can walk with your beer behind the chain link fence from bar to bar to bar to bar. And then they were like, and then we're driving the buses down the main drag, and they were throwing beer bottles at us. And they were like, this was terrifying. So that one is high on my radar. Florida State, Memphis, again, that's another one. And obviously Memphis is right there for you guys. And I think that Memphis and Boise State, to me, are the 2 that I'm very interested in. And not just getting the 12 spot. And again, that's why I go back to the format. Memphis going undefeated or Boise State going undefeated, they could be a top 10 team. And that can be a real problem as we get into maybe a Power 4 team isn't quite in that top 12. So if Boise State is 9, or Memphis finishes up there, because they played a battle against Oregon, Boise State did. If you end up in there, now you're doubling up on spots, and I think that's an interesting one. So I like that one. I am obviously you mentioned unranked, but ranked BC Mizzou is going to be really interesting, and Notre Dame, Purdue. Boy, what does that look like?
I don't know, but I hate them both right now. For different reasons.
I don't know what it looks like. Like, this is going to be, I mean, it's not just a rock fight. It's going to be one of those things where you just like, why?
Can't wait to witness that. Can't just, God, there's nothing worse than Notre Dame, especially in the early part of the season where there's actual expectations for them.
But they're forcing them in. Like, they're like basically the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, the Big 12, they are boxed in. Notre Dame is boxed in. They have all their sports in the ACC. The Big Ten wants them to add to the revenue, but the ACC is like, yeah, but you're already here, and we need you to save our league to like galvanize things. Keep Florida State in. By the way, Florida State 0-2. Guess what? You know what you shouldn't be doing if you're Florida State? Trying to get out of the ACC.
Yeah.
Because if you leave, you know what's coming? Trouble.
In the Bleachers is where you follow Mike Felder. At itsfelder.substack.com is where you can read all the smart words that he's writing about the sport of college football. There's nobody better or brighter in this business than Mike Felder, and I appreciate his time as always. It's good to see you, buddy. Welcome back.
It's good. And by the way, stay tuned, because today on the Substack, I am going to talk about a life hack for parents that have boys, and how to stop pee on the floor.
Wow.
These are the important things. These are the important things. I was
just thinking about that this morning. How do we get him to stop doing that?
Which is weird, Mike, because he doesn't have children.
I don't.
I'm just saying it's a good life hack. I learned it because I had to go to the bathroom at night, and I'm like, I don't want to turn the lights on. I figured something out. I think this can work for the boys.
Okay, excellent.
Let's hear it for the boys.
For the boys. That's not been said anywhere else on any other platform.
I think we just made that up.
I think we just made that up. Let's get to trademarking it. At In the Bleachers is where you follow Mike Felder. Thanks for stopping by, Mike.
See you guys.